The incredible edible egg.
Dies, but the pack survives.
Hello, everybody. Happy 420.
I forgot. I mean, pun fully not intended. I literally forgot.
So we are doing a special episode of Green Eggs and Ham because normally we're on Sunday, not Saturday.
Yeah. Do you know where it's Sunday right now? It's Sunday in India, is what it is.
Right. That is right. So,
and we have a special guest. Do you have any business you want to take care of before we announce our special guest?
No, you can go ahead and announce the special guest, and then we'll do the intro.
Okay. Well, for those of you just joining or who are joining the replay later, because we did spring this special edition timing on you, we have, I feel like my mic is being weird. Can you hear me now? How about now?
Yeah, that is better. That is better.
Okay. I felt like every time I turned my head, it was like going away like this. And for some reason, it's the same mic. It's the same mic I always use. I don't know what's going on. Anyway, okay. So for our introduction, we have our guest, Vivek Vardhan, and he is from New Delhi. He is a friend of mine. Hi, Dirk. Welcome. I met him through a community because he is a community leader, but what he also is a classical Indian musician. Probably should have worked on that a little bit. Jeez. Well, anyways, we're true professionals here. Anyway, so this is an aspect of Vivek that I am not familiar with. Hi, Valerie. So I'm excited to learn along with everybody here. He is a very detail-oriented person in general, so I'm excited to see what he's going to bring with our classical Indian music exposure today.
Right.
So I think without further ado, bring him on.
All right. Welcome.
Hello guys. Namaste everyone, and thank you very much for the kind introduction. Some series of pictures you guys chose, that was a surprise, but
that was scary.
They were the only ones I had. I'm not gonna lie.
We
And
could
it
have
was
asked,
last minute.
but that was a good surprise for me. So thank you very much.
Yeah. No, I thought it
AI
turned out
helped.
great though. It was great.
Yes, good
I love
memories,
it.
good memories.
Shows your free spirit.
Yes, actually, it does. Like it just built up some suspense as well. Who is this guy?
Who is this guy? I know.
Well, we hope to find that out who this guy is and
Yes.
what is this about music having healing powers and all
many
about
things.
classical Indian music. So this is going
So,
to be fun.
it's very much like, I think so. If I have to give an example, I'm very much inspired from nature. So it's very much like if work is sun, so music is moon, you know. So it's very much like just being in sync that every one of us has this side which is very sunny. It's like, it's the basic of life, but at the same time, there is a need, especially as a human, in order to have a good life, that those you live out those emotions, be it in any way. And often I see that, this in this society of ours, this thing is not beautifully embraced. And this was the quest mainly, like how shall I direct, where shall I direct it to? And even I was not aware where life will end up at, because I was just someone who was trying to figure it all out. And so it will be an honor to just share like what I found in the universe, and how this thing can actually heal you as a human, especially growing up, as I mentioned with Chad, that the way our education system is, it's somehow like this entire shaping up as a human, where each side of you is embraced. This thing is like, not propagated that easily. So yeah, would be happy to discuss more, especially with Kerry, who happens to be an expert on these topics.
Oh, I don't know about an expert, but I
For
do
sure.
want to. I do want to get a little bit more of a foundation. I did a really well. You saw the introduction. There's so many more aspects to who you are. I mean, we met in what, like a tech community. I didn't know
Yeah.
if that was like the official term that to use,
Yes.
but I think it's so funny that we've come so far
Absolutely.
from that space.
And this is why I love internet so much. Like often people ask me like, what I do. It's like internet is my home. What you do at home, you pretty much everything, because in fact the musical journey that I got on, it started because of COVID. Like generally, I had some time out, and I saw some guys on Instagram I used to follow, that hey, probably this guy is giving away free I mean, he's giving away tuitions, not free, obviously it was chargeable, but I mean, since then, even for me, it was like an experiment. Just imagine, like something that I am right now, it's such a core part. And the instrument was with me for like 1.5 years. Nothing happened. I was like, damn, this is one difficult instrument to pick. Like, I'm not able to blow now. And during COVID, it happened that, I saw on Instagram a guy I used to follow, that, hey, he's giving away some classes. I'm like, yes, I'm free. Why not? And since then, then the desire back then was just to learn an instrument. The instrument that I had, it's called bassuri, and I got it as a birthday gift. So naturally, I was like very much like, yeah, I want. It looks so cool. I want to. There is a childhood dream of mine. But once you start learning, like reality hits you in the face. This is one thing, like you glorify, wow, I'm going to play an instrument, and then you see it's so much hard work.
Can we dig in a little bit more to what a bossery is and what it looks
Sure.
like and all of it?
Sure. So see, this is. So can you? Yes.
Yeah.
So this is a bassuri. It's wait. Let me. Shall I just turn off my?
I love your halo. I think it's great, but maybe for
Yes.
this part.
Right.
There you go.
I think so. That would be much better.
Oh, well,
It's a little better. But
Yes.
so it looks kind of like a flute or
Yeah, it's actually
ish.
flute. It's actually
Okay.
a flute,
mm,
and it's wooden flute actually. It's made up
Uh-huh.
of bamboo, and
Okay.
bamboo is like one of the specialities of India. Like it's a very versatile plant, and
Uh-huh.
crazy thing is that in my house, like there are some bamboo plants like in my living room, and they just grow. They have roots, and they just grow if you keep them in water. It's
I
such an
love that.
amazing thing. Like I mean, just think of it. Like there is this plant that's literally So often I wonder if I keep my bamboo, like my bassuri, in water, will it start growing? I mean,
That's a
just
good
think of
question. I like to eat bamboo.
yes, it's like a very versatile plant throughout the human history. Like it's something a very special plant, and yeah, I'm just glad because it's a wooden instrument. It has very much organic vibes. That you generally feel very much rooted, sync with nature, so on and so forth. And
Yeah.
again, I never thought about it in that way, but when you play bassuri, you're basically like just controlling your breath.
I was gonna.
So
That was that was totally gonna be my next question. I was like, I really like the idea of wind instruments, maybe because they're easier for me personally to learn, but also the idea of breathing out and creating
yeah,
sound. I mean, it's very closely related to like singing is a wind instrument, a breath instrument. So just as a quick recap to make sure that I'm getting all the juicy details. So you kind of started with some classes during COVID, but I feel like maybe you've gotten a little bit more serious since then.
so it was very much like in COVID, I was laid off, and there was this internal struggle that health was very much affected. So naturally, we were very much introspective about life, where I want to lead, and things like that. And one thing was for sure, as much as I like the digital world that I'm part of, like it helps you make very good money, you cannot ignore this side that at the end of the day, your mind is just on a constant rush. Sometimes I used to struggle with this aspect that how can I just stop? Like when you get on the bed, you want to just calm down. Like yes, life is good and things like that. Often that aspect used to trouble me a lot, and generally what people do, they start smoking, they get into drugs, and the idea is again that people want to just calm down so that they
Yeah.
are. And again, I was very much involved in those things as well, and but as with progress of time, I was like, I need more, I want something that is very much like heals me on a very much organic level without needing these things.
Yeah.
So when those classes started, my guruji, my teacher, my music teacher, credit to him, like within 5 6 months, I was like, something just clicked inside me. Damn, I just enjoy it so much because usually I used to play for 5 minutes, and in 5 minutes I'm like, okay, I'm done. That thing became 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and over the course of 6 months, I was playing for like almost 1 hour. And often because if you think of especially playing, you're just breathing deep, taking deep breaths. So naturally, like what Buddhists say, this is a form of meditation, like just controlling your breath.
Yeah. I hadn't really thought about it like that. It
Right.
makes me
Me
want to dig
neither.
my old flute out.
Please do. Like it's one of the best things you can do. And because and often I used to see that and like when I am like starting to play, and by the time I'm leaving my bassuri, my spine used to be all erect, very much confident, and naturally very much calm, sincerity towards life. And then at the same time you just feel this love, that yes, you love everything that's going around. And the good thing is that now this became like a very complementary habit to my work, because I could push more, because I knew that yes, I'll control that speed. And it's just interesting because there is an element where I often go towards like 500 600 bpm. Just imagine,
Yeah,
like
you
you're
were
like a rock.
saying that. Yeah. That's
Yes, and
real. That's super fast. I'm kind of okay for anybody who's out there like struggling to learn something new. I'm kind of interested in this space of like getting the sort of the discipline and the drive to just do it a little bit of every day until you kind of
yes.
reach that click point. Can you just kind of describe that experience of yours just a little bit more? Because I think that that's the point where a lot of people give up on learning a new discipline or
Exactly.
learning a new talent. I
Right.
mean,
I'm just glad, Kerry, you mentioned it, because in fact, majority of humans that I meet, like I see them, if when they meet me for the first time, yes, there's an element that hey, this guy plays bassuri and all. once they stay with me for like a week and so, I generally leave them inspired because it's the schedule of a student. Like for example, waking up at 3:30 every day. Like for example, in my apartment in the colony that I live, like everyone in the area just admires this fact that this guy is so consistent for 4 years. And you need to understand, like it's pain. It's like a constant struggle. You have, I was reading this quote that no matter what you do in life, life is a suffering in any way that you see. In fact, if you see a child when it comes, like for the first thing that it does is cry. Like the very act of breathing is like a cry, and we get used to this pain, but the pain is there if you're just sensitive enough. And so it's very
I
much
think we
like
talked.
so
Sorry, I
it's
didn't
very
mean to interrupt.
no, it's just that it's, I think so, it's just about choosing your suffering, that you can either suffer with all those thoughts and all, or rather you express it out.
Right.
And if you express it out beautifully, people call it art.
Right. I think this is just to make a quick touch back to the women's panel that we did. I think that was part of our discussions during that too, is that the writing of the songs or the creating of the music, it was pretty much a consensus that it was a cathartic sort of experience. And I love that aspect. I know when I have a really rough day, even just singing karaoke, even if it's somebody else's songs and I'm reading the words, there's something about the air, right? The touching base with who you are by the song that you pick and how you express it. Like, it doesn't have to be perfect every time. It's just about going through the motions and the ritual of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think so. Like, there is anything called perfect. It's very much like express the things that you have inside, and that an expression in itself. There will be some people who will be affected by it, moved by it. Some people will detest you for it because it happens always. Like I have been
Right.
through situations where people are coming to me, they treat me with all the love and everything. They give me money. Like it's a very strange feeling that I generally don't play with that intention, but often they come and like, no, no, it's just my gift that you made me feel like that. I'm like, wow. And
That's
oftentimes
amazing.
it even happens that somebody comes and say, hey, can you just shut up? I'm trying to sleep.
Right. Because
So,
sometimes that happens too.
and
Because what I'm hearing is tortured musicians is a universal language. And speaking of tortured musicians, let's take a quick pause to say hi to some of the people in the chat. I see Valerie. I see Dirk. I didn't see if anybody else popped up, but I'm so glad they're here.
And Dirk, you mentioned him. He actually did a Croc Pringles song.
Did he?
So maybe at the end of the show we can get to that.
Oh man. So yeah, we kind of
Yes.
have silly segments. I was going to look and see if I could find any reviews. But we do have musicians who like to spit out some of the fun songs covering some of the goofy things that we cover. But yeah, who was it that said, I think it was Marie who said something about living in a house with a bunch of musicians, because I was like, I love living with musicians. She's like, have you ever lived with a musician? I'm like, yes, still like it. So, I mean, that's kind of, I mean, and you're in really close quarters in New Delhi. I mean, I don't even know if we can imagine like people per square mile.
this is the reason why, like, generally at my home base, people love it because they see that this guy, like, when you see someone having just fun, but when you see someone who's actually put in an effort, like the respect grows because, this is something they have seen, like where I was 4 years ago and where I am now, the things that I'm doing and seeing every day, like, majority of days, 3:30 a.m. in the morning on my terrace, doing every
I
day.
love I love when most people are like getting ready to go for a jog early in the morning. You're like, let's play some jams. Speaking of which, are you prepared to play a little bit for us?
What do you want to
Yes.
hear? What do you want to hear?
Oh,
You
it's your
play
choice.
whatever. Yeah.
I,
You
Yeah,
I
see,
do not have enough knowledge to make requests. I
yes.
mean, I would.
Before we proceed, there are a couple of things. I am yet a student. Okay, I'm still learning, and that's the main reason why, like, I am not putting myself out there because my teacher, because he's the one who has been guiding me through all this, and I'm eternally grateful to him. He said that once you'll be out there, we both will work together so that we send out this professional image. So, just in case if I make some mistakes, kindly avoid it as my ignorance. And if I say anything good, it's because of my credit to my teacher. Okay,
Well,
so this is Mozart that we play right now.
I'm so excited.
Oh,
Hey, we can't.
you're muted. You're muted. She's out waving.
I'm not gonna lie. I didn't really listen to your instructions. So was I supposed to mute? Was I not supposed to mute? I wasn't listening.
Yeah,
Just sorry.
anytime he plays, we mute up.
Okay.
And put the. I switched to echo cancellation. So
Okay.
you did mute up, but then you forgot to unmute. So, but
Oh, it's gonna be the first time I'll ever do that. No, I was.
that was
I love
fantastic.
that. So, so you said that was Mozart. Is that what you said?
That's why it's magical, because imagine like a guy like me who has zero clue how to play, and this is the first in my first class I was learning Mozart, and you can imagine like the excitement of just a noob. Damn, I'm learning Mozart. Are you kidding me? Like, this is the legend that I've always heard. Like, he's the musician that came on
Right.
earth, and you're playing his music, and then you understand why people start calling him Mozart, because it's so technical, and then you start understanding how much practice it will take. So that's why, like the first thing that I realized, that you have to be humble, that it's hard work, and then slowly, at first day you don't, but more time pass, you understand that in art, humbleness is something that is cherished, and my Guruji says this thing, that grace is important in such form of music. That
Grace is such a good word because
yeah,
the minute you said grace, it's like confident humility.
and it comes down. It's like
Yeah.
it doesn't grow from within you. It's associated that grace comes from the heavens. God's grace you, angels grace you. So generally, like it's a very much like worship, dare I say, some form of worship, or like something you just pray, or like do it with utter humility, love. And for me, like when I started learning music, again, the idea was that I just wanted to learn playing bassuri. I never thought so what to learn. First thing that happened for me was, damn, there are so many types of emotions. Often, like we as humans, we in day-to-day our lives, we experience certain kinds of emotions only. Like, for example, we feel love, we feel hate, uh, but there are so many different, it's like a rainbow out there. If you just see the same colors every day, and then you realize that there is a range of emotion which people are just missing out on. And this was like,
Yeah. I'm a huge advocate in expanding your emotional vocabulary. I always start with the
Yes.
sensations in my body, and then I decide what to name each like nuanced version of anger or pain or like happiness. Like there's happy, but there's also joy. There's also bittersweet. There's also like a longing
Exactly.
that can also
Exactly.
be a joy, and like all of those things feel different in your body. So I love finding more and more words to express that. And so music, if I'm hearing you right, is just another way to expand that emotional vocabulary. And it's funny because we've been here for 25 minutes and I'm already like, I really should practice strumming that ukulele a little bit more because I was feeling a little bit down on myself. I was like, I went to like tune it and I wasn't even strumming the notes long enough to like pick it up on the tuner. And I was like, oh, we got to start with strumming like, out of tune before I can even figure out how to tune the dang thing. So, I mean, I'm already feeling like ready to grab it and start doing it for a couple minutes every day and allowing it to just be a part of me and what I do.
And often people take it are so hard on themselves. If you actually see it, that
Hmm.
I cannot afford to make mistakes. Like for example, when I was traveling last year, I was in Goa, and Goa is like a very much like lots of tourists come from all over the world. I was there at the New Year's time, so lots of international crowd, local people there, and like I got into this like peer pressure that's performance stages, and obviously you see that yes, I have worked hard. I can definitely play on a stage, and I got on stage, and I often the things that I used to feel, I was not able to convey the same thing to the crowd as well. You know,
Yeah, I can
because you lack
relate.
the skills. You lack the skills, and this is how you learn through practice, mistakes, and stuff like that. But you know what happened? I did not enjoy that thing because once you're out there, and it happened to me that don't make me a professional right now. Let me be a student. Allow me to make mistakes.
Hmm.
You
I
realize,
love
like
that.
for example, I played Mozart for you. I made mistakes a couple of times, and the thing is that since I'm a student, I allow myself to make mistakes. Often, as we grow up, this is the thing that adults are generally afraid of. Like, if you're a student, that feeling of being a beginner again, it's a very humbling thing that, damn, I don't know anything.
Right.
I need to, like, bow down and ask someone else that, hey, please teach me.
Right.
Like, for example, it happened with me. My teacher, he's 2 years younger. And that in itself was like, a very humbling feeling that you're asking a guy 2 years younger than you, please teach me.
Please
Right.
teach me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's something that just grows within you that, okay, don't let this ego thing just mess things up. Be humble that, yes, you're able to play Basuri because this was a guy's dream that he can just play. So being a student in itself is like, it just allows you, gives you that freedom. Just enjoy the process of making mistakes. No one is judging you.
And I
Well,
think, well,
go
I was going
ahead.
to say, I think that's a great point that I think a lot of us don't learn as kids that we should learn. One is that if you're starting something, whether it's drawing or music or what have you, or playing a sport, whatever, where you are at that point is not where you're always going to be, and you have to practice and continue, and you will grow in that art form, whatever it is, and that is something that we don't allow ourselves to do, is to not be perfect first time out drawing something. I used to love to draw as a kid, and then I kind of gave it up in junior high because I was like, oh, I'm terrible at this. And I wish somebody had said, no, you're good, and just keep going and keep doing it.
Yeah.
And that is definitely something that we don't allow ourselves to not be perfect and to make
Right.
mistakes. And I think that's a great point.
Or
Yeah.
even, I mean, even to be encouraged, like, well, if you are enjoying this, like, here's places or things that you can do to develop
Right.
a skill that you also enjoy. But they're
Right.
like, it's so hard to, like, I love getting some feedback. If I can improve on something, I want to hear that. you know, and sometimes mistakes lead to great things. You're absolutely right about that. You know, I was thinking as you were talking about being a student, Vivek, and this applies to Chad too, really. One of the reasons why I'm drawn to kind of both of you is you guys do such a good job of student leadership. It's like you guys are both a student of life, but you're also really good at like gluing together a bunch of different types of people. And like as you were talking about that, I was like, you know what? That is really what I enjoy absolutely the most about Vivek and Chad. You know, like I'm sucked into people who are passionate about learning, but also have like this what's that? Like a foundational vibe or like a solidifying vibe or an encompassing vibe. I'm not really, maybe a little bit of all of it, but it is something that you guys definitely share, is this ability to learn and lead. And I love it.
Well, and it's a learn and share what you're, you know, and wanting to share and wanting
Yeah.
to let other people know. And I think, yeah, that he definitely,
Yeah, because you
does do
both
that.
will deny being leaders. I can. As soon as I said it, I was like, they're both
You
going
know,
to deny it.
there is a very beautiful saying in our culture, which says that when you light up a candle, the light will automatically spread everywhere. So knowledge has often been associated with this thing called light, and
Yes.
and this is what I mean, that don't don't fool yourself, let alone others. Like, don't fool yourself. Like, once you have that knowledge, naturally that calmness, that peace, that contentment, I think so that's the main reason why, Kerry, that these are the aspects that every student should be taught in our high schools. And I mean in a
Yeah.
real way, that these are beautiful emotions that every human, if you have such humans who feel these emotions, naturally your society will be very peaceful. It will be a very prosperous society. And often I see that this element where you accept and embrace this human side, rather it's not encouraged. People are encouraged to, like, don't talk about these, like they are often laughed at. And this creates some sense of, like, some really suppressed emotions where a kid was not able to express this. He will, like, direct those things in a very negative way. Often it can happen, it can be violent as well. And if you just had allowed that thought to go,
Sorry, that's
like
my
a
dogs.
dog, yeah, like that dog.
I have an extra one tonight. I'm dog
Oh.
sitting.
They're wanting
No,
in on this conversation.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
no,
Can
Oh,
we
good.
can we circle back? You said something a minute ago, and I just want you to say it again. And maybe if there's like a phrase in your language, in Hindi, is it Hindi that you speak? Am I
yes,
correct
yes,
in that?
yes.
Hey, girl, knock it off. Winnie, stop. It's my grand puppy. I don't want grandkids, but I'm okay with a grand puppy. You said, and it really, I don't know if I can remember exactly, but something about don't fool yourself, or if you fool yourself, that's why you fool others, or what was that phrase? And I'll mute myself while you explain it.
Yes, yes. So it's mainly about, that be honest. Like, often I see that people are projecting some things that they are not, and this is a huge pain point, because often I used to, like, learn from some influencers who used to, like, preach so many things, and it led to, like, so many wastage of years, just because they were in that position that they can give out ideas. And since they themselves were not what they were projecting, it led to, like, lots of time waste, lots of resentment and things like that. So that's why I often say, like, be honest, especially if you're going in that authoritative position where you're giving advices to someone. At least, like, it should be led by experience and knowledge, that yes, this is the best course of action that you recommend to anyone. And that's the main reason why, that because these are how leaders should be, like, being honest and transparent, that hey, these are the values that you represent. Often I think so. This as a society we are missing, where even our leaders are like just lying to us,
Yeah.
uh, and this just creates like from top down to the bottom. Like it just disturbs this entire chain because
Yeah.
we want. I mean, on all levels, like peaceful life, good life, where art and culture is celebrated, and everyone is like giving happy. This is what every human wants. If you look down at the end of the day, and
I mean, it's universal. It's
yeah,
universal. We want peacefulness in our lives, and we're
and
all kind of looking for ways to find that. Some people find that by pointing out things that they don't like about others, thinking that if they change that, then they can feel peace. And I think music is such a beautiful way to kind of engage with that peace within, regardless of what others are around you engaging in. And so, like, it's really why I love music so much and these
you know.
conversations.
In my second class, what had happened? Like in first class, I was learning Mozart, Happy Birthday tunes like that, and in my second class, my Guruji was like very surprised me, and he started something called Indian classical music, and I was like blown away because I grew up listening to it every once in a while, and often like I used to poke fun with my sisters, like what are these guys doing? And because it's a very technically challenging thing. The things that these guys do with their neck and their instrument, it's crazy. And I was just blown away. Damn, am I gonna learn these things? What a rag is? It's like it's always been like this mysterious thing. What is a rag? And before we dive into that, this is what my teacher says in my second class when this thing starts. That uh, Vivek, remember this thing. That the first form of music that you're always gonna do is silence. Silence is the first form of music that you'll pursue in your life, and that's somehow like it just blows you because people generally do not consider that music.
Well, it looks like we have a question from our chat.
Yeah,
Many
many
vibes.
vibes. Kiara, great to see you. Go ahead and type
Good to
that
see you,
question.
bud. Yeah, type that question in, and I'll.
While we're waiting on the question, did you want to go ahead and play another one? Were you prepared for
Yeah.
another song?
Let's wait for many vibes and then we can have a piece.
Oh, okay. Cool, cool.
Okay.
Yeah, and we're gonna have to circle back around to. Writes that down. He has to take notes first, and then I want to circle back around to "Silence is the first form in music" because that
Yeah.
is that is a phenomenal statement
Yeah, that's a dope.
on so many ways.
Yes, and that's the main reason why I tell you, like, there is something that's extremely lacking in our society is self-respect. Like,
Yeah.
people just don't have the, and I say this thing as a human for themselves. People
Yeah.
get involved in activities that will, like, lead to like downfall, and yet they do it. And I think so. A lot of down these things are down to self-respect, and but again, like that was a mind-opening statement for me as well because it just because whenever I start this music, it's like you have to ground yourself. You have to
Yeah.
prepare that, okay, be at peace. This music, I'm not gonna make noise, and that's a huge way. Like generally, and often I see jamming as noise making. That the
Uh
idea
huh.
here is not to make noise. The idea here is like to connect to the higher beings and at least strive to go there, where you go beyond this existence of humans and explore things that are far bigger.
All right. Well, there's the question from Many Vibes. It says, when you studied Western music and theory, what was the standard for Indian theory? I guess I'm curious about how vastly different they may be.
Yes, that's actually a good question. I used to think a lot about it as well. So, absolutely. Thank you, Many Vibes. That's actually a good question. So, we will. I'll try to dive it throughout the session. It's like a completely different way of thinking. Like I said, the first thing that is when you do Indian classical music is that silence is the first thing that will always be there. So we generally play a metronome. It's called tanpura, and the idea is that you just click on one note, let peace be there. And once like you're peaceful, then we can think about that. Okay, let's see what music is inside us, and then we'll try to explain.
And one more time, what did you call the metronome?
It's called tanpura. Tanpura,
Okay.
yes. So it's like a metronome, a drone instrument that you continuously, it keeps on humming. It's in different scales.
Oh, it
So
hums. It doesn't tick.
it's
When
like
I think
a
metronome, I think tick, 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 tick.
no, that will be like a rhythmic section. Rhythm
Okay.
is tick tick is rhythm, as you can see. So
Yeah.
mainly like metronome is like a constant drone sound that it will be of a particular scale. Like for example, in the
Okay.
background, I have this
I was gonna say,
ambient.
is that what you're playing in the background there? Okay, because I
Yes,
noticed that it accompanied your
right.
basara. Is
So
that what? Did I say
Basuri,
that right?
Basuri, yes,
Basari. Okay.
yes,
Sorry. I noticed that when you started playing, it really
yes.
filled out that piece, and
So
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 he
it's
wants to know
called.
how to spell it.
Yes, it's called Tanpura. Tanpura. I will share some links as well. Probably it will help you. It's a
Yeah.
great way to like start meditating because often I used to struggle a lot, like how to meditate and all. And so when you have drone instruments in the background, generally, especially in the scale that you generally hum, it's a good
Hmm.
way to like just go there. But before
And
we proceed, let me play something. It's called in
okay,
Indian classical music.
okay,
It's called Rag Bhopali, and just for many vibes, it's in A major. So we'll be playing in A major right now, and
okay.
yes, it's a pentatonic rag, and here it goes. So that was actually a famous folk song as well. It's based on Rag Bhopali only, and it's called Resham Piriri. It's from Nepal region of like Himalayas. So as you
Oh,
can, very folkish vibes and good vibes.
I love that. I turned off my direct monitor so that I didn't have any sort of, it was so good. Oh, there were so many little elements that I loved, and I immediately heard like that first note that you did, like you definitely let it resonate off into silence, and it was so interesting because we had just talked about the importance of silence, and then you did like this note, and then it was like an amuse bouche in cooking, where it was like this like treat that got my ears ready to hear the rest of it. And so I was really able to make that connection, talking about how the silence was important because it was like a note and then it was silence. And then you started getting into it a little bit more. This is so amazing. I totally got what you were saying. Good
So
choice.
so peaceful. Like I was just so at peace just listening to that, and it felt so
Yeah.
much positivity. So yeah,
So
fantastic.
Yeah.
first of all, thank you guys. That's kind of you. And again, like I said, wish I can say that the idea is that you constantly keep striving.
Yeah.
Like in music, you will realize this thing that life, it's a journey. Like it's not about that you reach someday you can say that I'm very happy. It's like a constant thing that you keep on doing, and you do it because you love it. Like for example, for me, the very act that okay, release singles and all, it will naturally come at one point.
Hmm.
You don't need to force it. Like in life, you don't need to force everything because often, like I said in the start, like a huge element for me was while growing up, like people expected me, you have to top in class, you have to top in your university, you have to best in your job, you need to make this much money, and truth be told, you're constantly burdened. And I think so.
Yeah.
When I started my
It's
art
true.
journey, I was like for example, when people say, wow, you play so good, like naturally you're like, wow, wow. It boosts your ego, but it will hurt equally bad when somebody criticizes you. And I
Yeah.
learned this thing
Truth.
very early, that don't take things personally. Like don't need to create any expectations. Like just let it naturally flow. It's a journey. There will be supporters along the way, there will be haters along the way, and you just have to love each of them as much as you can, because everyone is going to help you grow, how to manage the situation and how do you want to, like, because it's all part of this growing up. So but yeah, it's a journey, and you keep striving. Like it's not something that you feel silence one day. Like it's a constant journey that you keep practicing. That okay, I want, like for example, some days you struggle a lot, some days it's easy for you, and when you're struggling a lot, that's when it hits you that damn, I have lately been thinking a lot, I really need to calm down. Like for
Yeah.
example, suppose like sometimes you're overworking, or you're working on a project that's really close to you, and when you're like playing your instrument, you keep having those thoughts, and then it occurs to you that hey, I really need to take a step back. Like it's okay to work on your passion project, but at the same time, it's not healthy to be like consumed by it, like 24/7. I think
Yeah.
so. So it's something like a process that you keep on working towards. Like it's not like okay, I have reached a point and I can apply a full stop. It's a constant process.
Yeah. I think music is such a good reminder of that, isn't it? Because I
Yes.
don't think you can ever really get all the way there. I don't know. I can relate with cooking. I've started a new
Yes,
cooking club.
yes.
So I'm in the space of like being in a so I'm in a kitchen now. We've talked a little bit about this because we got to talk about food for like a half a minute. It is green eggs and ham after all. But what's really interesting about this new kitchen, I had told myself I was retired from cooking, and this kitchen has reinvigorated sort of my passion for it. But it's really hard. There's 3 languages in this kitchen. We've got Thai and we've got Spanish, and then we've got Carrie, which is barely English. Um, like for real though. But it's it's added this layer of challenge to cooking. Plus, I'm cooking a cuisine that I'm not as familiar with, and there's techniques that I'm like, whoa, like I as an American cook, I was mid to top of my game as a line cook, and coming in here, I'm like, I'm just happy washing dishes right now, and like watching things go on, because it's so I'm such a baby from
Now,
Carrie to English. Hey, hey, hey. Okay, fair. But it is a good reminder. I think Many Vibes had asked, he had said, how do you deal with personal frustration? Even when I'm all alone, I get frustrated when I can't do something that I tried to do. And I think you're kind of, you were addressing that as he wrote that. But
yeah, as I said,
because
like,
then he answers his own question.
So-
Makes a note to take more breaks. Yeah, Many Vibes has got his pen out. He's all over it. Hi Phil, how's it going?
And Carrie, I just want to point out, so Many Vibes is she, not he.
Oh, sorry.
No big deal.
I'm the worst.
Many Vibes.
They.
Many Vibes is a fantastic. She always is. She's a great chatter all over YouTube.
Sorry.
But
I'm sorry.
all good. We know, nothing intended. So.
Oh man, I just isn't that telling though? If I don't know, I just default to he. Isn't that terrible? So Phil has joined us. He says good morning from Japan.
what's the time in Japan right now? It's like 8:30 in India.
We'll give him a minute to catch up.
Somehow, like, when you're working across the globe, it's like always interesting to ask times. I don't know why. It's
I
like
always like to
I
ask how
agree.
tomorrow. Yeah, I'm always like, so how's tomorrow looking? Because
Yes.
I'm
Very
still in
peaceful, very
here
peaceful.
yesterday.
And it comes with fame.
Yeah. Oh man. So okay. I've got so many questions. Can we talk a little bit about like maybe some terms of some of the techniques that I noticed?
Yes. So techniques, like lots of, like for example, it's always very interesting. Like for example, in guitar, there's something called staccato, where like
Yeah.
it's very much like break is there.
Yeah.
In bassry as well, you can do staccato. So it's form of staccato only, and
Yeah.
then like this is like something guitar doesn't have. Is like elongated notes. Like for example,
The
this.
swoop.
So you cannot do this in guitar.
Yeah.
You can imagine like this strong, long notes. And obviously there are different elements, like for example, how you're combining two notes. Like for example, I'm going A to B, and
Yeah.
this is where culture becomes very interesting. For example, if any one of you, especially in the audience, they have seen how our culture, language, written form is. Like for example, Hindi. If you look how Hindi is written, it's very much circular in nature. Like for example, in English, if you see, words are very much like sharp edges are there, like a. Uh,
I love how you put that.
F, Z, X, any letter that you give, and this is how Western music is there as well, like very sharp in nature, like suddenly do 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 do, and you notice this thing, and whereas in Indian culture, if you look at our script, the way the entire our language is, it's very much circular in nature. So our music is very much circular in nature as well. Like here, like for example. Uh, in music, for example, see how notes will be round in nature. So as you see, like this circular nature, this is very much prominent in music as well. So when you are flowing in this way, and again, it's a process that takes time to develop, where you're forming these perfect circles. But this is like a huge.
It's almost like an infinity sign more than just a circle, where it's 'cause
It
it's got
depends, like how you absolutely like. Infinity sign is one of the patterns as well, but it's totally dependent on what you can form. Like, see, like, this is where Indian classical music is very interesting. Like, it's not a written form of music, it is something where you're extremely creative. So, for example, the rag Bhopali that I'm doing, it's a pentatonic rag. Like, there are 5 notes in it, but there is no fixed structure. Like, there are rules defined that only you can play these 5 notes. Now, what you can find is totally how much you practice. Like, there are, and that's why, like, for example, I played Bhopali for around 18 months, just one rag. I mean, it's a huge amount of time, like 18 months just doing one thing every day, 18 months. The routine was just play Bhopali, just play Bhopali. And still, like, after 18 months, my Guruji is like, let's move on to something new. We will come back to it later. Because they generally say that one lifetime is not enough to cover a rag, because it's a personality itself. And yes, it's like, for example, trying to understand who Kerry is. You can spend like,
Right. When you find out, please write it down and send it to me because I really need that. I need that bad. But I mean, I've reached a point in my life where I'm like, there is no figuring out Carrie. There is just the journey that is Carrie.
And
exactly.
that's life in general. That's everybody.
Yeah.
So
I
Yes.
know.
yeah.
So this is how a rag is as well. Like, it's very much like a human personality. Like, it has an angry
Okay.
side, a very emotional side. It's a very beautiful side. Like, for example, there is this emotion. It's called Shringar. Shringar means beauty. So a rag has, there are certain rags which are very beautiful in nature, almost as if like how a bride looks like on the day of her marriage. Like, and you really have to, like, for example, there is this rag called rag bihag. It's literally defined on how a bride looks like. Very happy feeling, very beautiful feeling. And just imagine when you start playing some things like that, naturally you're in that state where you feel like, okay, I am that thing. And it just starts affecting you, because naturally you will be in that joyful state, if you can understand.
Yeah, it's kind of like watching what you think because the repetitious thoughts really do kind of create your state. And so creating a sound that can elevate your state. Yeah,
Yes, you're actually
just
right.
in playing when you play it and then hear it as you're playing it, it does kind of like shift your whole vibe, if you
So,
will.
if what just trying to express what you said in, like, much more, with much more clarity. So, see, like, everything is a frequency. Whatever we see around, even from this phone here to what you and me are, everything is vibrating to a certain extent, and that is what we call frequency. So, the very act of making a sound is basically you are producing certain frequencies. And so the main idea is that, it's like actually very science. So I'm an engineer by nature, from my education, computer science engineer. So I have this side which is very logical and reasonable. Like, it's totally logical. I cannot ignore it. I needed to have a very logical explanation for it. And
Yeah.
so for me, it becomes very much like a critical thing that, hey, it should, my brain should feel that convinced there is a proper strong reason for it. Like, logic is there. And
Steps and structures and things to like have like a touch point, like a start and a finish and a top and a bottom
absolutely.
and like the edges to that container. And the music kind of breaks that container on you, doesn't it?
Not only breaks that, but then this comes, like, for example, when you keep playing, there comes a certain frequency. Like, even they talk about this thing, like therapists talk about it. There are certain frequencies that literally heal you. You feel healed. And they have been doing like sound therapies as well. It's very much common part of this yoga culture. But the main idea here I'm trying to say is that, when I say that peace, like silence, is the first form of music, naturally you will feel that you have found a way, a portal through which you can self heal. For
Yes.
example, and it's a huge thing, because in our societies, for example, if somebody is going through a breakup or something like that, they don't have that mechanism. How shall I express these things? And often I see that society in general is very much dismissive towards this feeling. Hey, just get over it. what the hell? Like, this is an emotion of mine. I just cannot get over it. It was a huge aspect of mine. And somehow, like, there is not much acceptance that's going on and things like that. And that's where, like, this music allows you to heal yourself. Like, no matter how much traumas you have, no matter how much pain you have. Like, for example, there's this rag called Rag Yaman, and very interesting rag. The entire mood of the rag is like lover, like, it's love, and you're missing your lover. And the crazy part, I have, as a man, I have struggled, like, showing, getting in touch with that aspect where I can cry. It just doesn't come naturally to me. Like, growing up, like, people told me, and I developed this like weird shell where I just cannot cry. It was a weird thing. For 7 8 years I couldn't cry. And then I started doing Rag Yaman, and the crazy aspect is that it allows you, it gives you that zone where naturally in love you cry. And I started crying, like my tears were rolling down my face. And I
Well, and
was
the
like,
beauty about tears is they're not just for sadness. Like if you're not, and I kind of had a period too. If you're not crying because you're sad, you're also not crying from joy, or you're not being moved to tears from beauty or any of the other things. Once I was able to kind of, because I went through the same period. It might not just be a man thing, right? Where I had
yeah,
to be so
there
so
will be
tough
a
that I wouldn't cry, and then I didn't cry from things that were beautiful either.
yes. And often it happens where it's taught to us that, hey, it's a sign of weakness and things like that, and that plays a huge role as well. But
Yeah.
my main thing is that it's that embracing that rainbow exists. I'm not saying like just do this, but like it's not cool. It's actually sad that you have shut down on human experience. It's a very
Yeah.
much like vulnerable and a good way to bond as well. So
Right.
again, music allowed me to like just embrace that part after 7 years. Imagine like how much relief I must have felt when I
Yeah.
was able to embrace that thing. And
Yeah.
that's why, like, I often see that music will give you that expression that probably you just cannot show in, like, and share this thing with everyone. And there's one more thing I like to share. I saw this thing, where many vibes is saying like, there's a difference between being, like, lonely and being alone. Often I see that people struggle staying with themselves. And naturally, like, because I'm pursuing music, I enjoy my own company. That in itself is a powerful thing. Like, for example, I can travel, keep me anywhere in the world, I'll be content because I have my instrument. I don't need anything else. Like, I can even live
Yeah.
off an island where there's no one. And
Yeah.
that's coming from a place of strength, that rather than a weakness. So I think so that in itself is a huge empowering thing that I've felt and realized that yes, you alone are enough. And again, that just gives you this strong perspective. When you enter a relationship, you do not enter it in place of a need, but rather than, yes, like, I can do this thing as well, which is a very healthy way of approaching
Right.
things.
Yep. Instead of two halves creating a whole, it's two holes that equal to double.
Right.
You know,
Yes.
I mean, that's the ultimate goal, isn't it? I would say that the last 4 or 5 years have taught me a lot about being alone and how much fun I have in my own brain. You know, people are like, "Oh, I can't be alone. I don't, I'm alone with my thoughts." I'm like, my thoughts are amazing. Like I truly enjoy my thoughts. I have a good laugh with myself, and I do like some silence. I used to do it more, especially when I was commuting from like an hour drive from a noisy kitchen to going home and being a mom. There was that hour, and I would tell people I wouldn't listen to anything except like the sound of the road for that hour sometimes, especially if it was a super crazy day. And
Cooling
it
off is
was,
needed.
yeah, it was so neutralizing. It was great. You know, I wouldn't listen to a podcast. I wouldn't listen to music. I would just like drive and just like notice my thoughts, how they'd be spinning really fast and just feeling them kind of unwind and like evaporate out of my ears and just
Yes.
having that space. And I hadn't realized that that's what I was doing for a really long time, but that's what I
Yes,
was doing.
this has been a core aspect of my practice. Mainly, like, I don't practice music just because music. It's very much like a form of self therapy that I do every day. Like, for example, I wake up, the first thing that I do, like, I want to feel this strength, like strength. And strength comes from a very peaceful space, not this violence, because um, and that gives you that headspace. For example, nowadays I'm doing this rag, it's called rag bhairav. And bhairav is literally like, a haunting vibe is there.
I was gonna. Okay, so that's. I'm so glad. It's like you're reading my mind from all the way over there because this
Imagine,
community
like,
they really like their creepy, spooky stuff, and so I was gonna ask you if you had a creepy version of the beautiful bride, because because they do. They really like the spooky stuff, and also, I mean, that being said, there is data and psychology coming out on how like hardcore what new metal is that what is that what it's called, Chad? I'm not a person.
Well,
It's not my thing, but
new metal's not new anymore, but yeah, no, heavy metal in general. So yeah.
okay, but there is like something that is therapeutic in a way, like it cheers people up. I haven't experienced that because I get it other places, but what's so there is like a version in Indian classical
Absolutely,
music of that
absolutely.
sort of
And
haunting release.
so it's called, it's just try and understand you, the entire rag is about darkness,
Okay.
and that masculine darkness. They have divided it in forms of masculine and feminine as well. And the
Yeah.
crazy aspect is feminine is the most technically difficult rag. Like,
You say that's surprising, but as being a
yes,
chick, I'll tell you what, it is not surprising.
yes, it's not. It's not. You, in real life as well, you can see it, and you need to understand. Like, in Indian culture, a woman has always been kept on the top. Like, like they have
Yeah.
always been said, like, women are perfect in nature. They have things they can do, like they can conceive a baby that is a man can never do, and they are special in that regard. So they have been given this state where we assume that they are like mothers, and often, this is an aspect which we embrace in our day-to-day life as well, especially in the Indian culture. This is how we are raised from the very beginning, how to treat women and things like that.
Yeah.
And so there is this rag called Rag Bhairav. Female part of this rag is Rag Bhairavi, and so you can imagine, like, and both these rags are about the same thing, like, the darkness that you feel, and which is the eternity. Everywhere it's darkness. If you look at the space actually as well, dark matter
Yeah.
surround 99.99% of the universe. Like, everywhere it's just darkness, and this is the idea. And
Yeah.
obviously, we're talking about
That's how,
darkness.
that's how you see the light is by having the darkness, right?
It's crazy. Like, you wake up every day in morning, and this is the thing, the zone, the mental vibe is going there. Imagine, like, nothing can scare you anymore.
Yeah. That's what
Like,
happened with the crying. I think so I had turned off my crying because I was afraid if I started, I would never be able to stop. But once you let it out, then you realize, well, I mean, that like I didn't realize that that was my fear until I really started contemplating it, but like that was my fear. I didn't want to feel anything because I was afraid if I started feeling like I wouldn't be able to turn it off and like move on with my life, like continue to move through life. And it's absolutely not true. But it's so funny because it was like this ridiculous thought that I had that I didn't realize I was having that was stopping me from really
yes,
enjoying the dark and the light in the fullness spectrum.
this is the main reason why I go back to what the conversation started with. The education system needs to be better. It's like, we need children needs to be taught that this is not a sign of weakness, rather it's just a form of emotion, that every human should embrace it. That, hey, there are times where probably if you cry, that emotion is completely calmed down, like, that storm has passed away. It's like, if the clouds are there, it's better it rains, and so that, it helps the grasses to grow more. So it's like that entire cycle can be completed. But generally, we humans have this weird idea has been propagated to us through our parents, to our teachers, to our society, that these things are sign of weaknesses. And often at times, despite saying this thing, even I am going through, and it's a constant struggle where how much of emotions that you feel on a day-to-day life, the society labels it, and it's not good for you as a human. Like
Yeah.
so because my niece is 1 year old, and I had this very lucky period in my life where I was growing up, getting older with a baby in my house. And amazing because I could sense it, the kid is learning her behavior, everything that we are doing. And I often used to discuss it with my sister, like what is shame, like how will she develop shame, because
Yeah.
she's not, I mean, just think about it. And that's when, like, for example, when a kid is starting to express and somebody stops that thing, for example, you started sharing something and I interrupt you and start giving you a lecture. That's when, when people make you feel bad about that, hey, don't express it, it's bad. That's when shame starts to develop. So
Right.
so I'm talking about these little things that children need to be made aware that these are what it causes is, like, you're raising kids who will have generational trauma,
Yeah.
that and trauma will be there throughout their life, and this results out in different violent forms, as we see in the news every now and then. So, as a
Yeah.
society, it's a responsibility where we raise our children. This education system creates humans that are peaceful in nature. They think and feel and express these things in a very harmonious way, because we all can coexist. And it's just about understanding that our intelligence can allow far greater. Like, for example, in the Rag Bhairav that I'm doing, generally there is a bandish which Muslims sing, and every day morning I wake up and this is the thing that I'm doing. Like, I'm chanting to Allah, and I'm a Hindu, and I naturally feel this power. Like, damn, this Allah word is so much powerful. Like, everybody should take it. And this thing is what music does. Like, it connects majority of ideas that we see and come through, they all are dividing us. And
They are.
and
Oh, speaking of divisions, I'm going to cut you off real quick because that's just a really perfect place to kind of insert this question. Many Vibes had said that, and I'm going to in quotes. You are saying that heavier music with more energy is dark, and I do believe I did say that, but it's for lack of a better word. It's more. I just. How else do you describe the sort of polarity between like a minor key and a major key? And so and I make this association very unconsciously, same way if I don't anyway, same way I was calling Many Vibes he, like I make this sort of generalized assumption on my part that heavy metal is dark, and so they bring up a really good point there. Could you maybe how do you speak to those two different sorts of aspects when it comes to, because I don't necessarily think that it's I might have used dark, but dark is probably the wrong in a
again,
negative.
I get where you're going because it's heavy.
Do you see
It's
where I'm going
heavy,
with that?
heavy and soft. The
There's
two
no
opposites.
bad
So
or
there's
good. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. Dark isn't bad. That's the
Yeah.
thing. Is that I think to assume that when you say dark that you're meaning something bad.
Yeah.
That's not the case. But interesting. V said that he was a huge metalhead before getting into the
the,
classical
I, I,
music.
like
Oh, you
I
did?
yes, as a
I
teenager,
didn't.
Lamb
Shock.
of God, and and I'm talking like I was a passionate metalhead, head banging and things like that, and it came very naturally to me because I Now, no,
Sorry,
like
I didn't know you during that time period. It's just funny to think about it.
I mean, just think about it, not just into it. Like I used to live it. Like I used to be an angry teenager, like lot many times. It was a cathartic experience, just experiencing this
Right.
mosh pit and like just going and going crazy.
Right.
And often, like it was contrary to what people have made it out. Like mosh pit experience used to be like most lovable experience. People
Oh
generally
yeah, definitely,
people
definitely.
care. Like for example, imagine like my specs just fell off on the floor. People were the first one to stop it. I did not need to ask. Like they were like, hey, let him get that, like his glasses back. And that's how much conscious people are, and it's a very
Right.
caring space where and that's why I say, like, once you understand, once you have this knowledge that no emotion is particularly positive or negative, it's just a human experience to feel these things, and it's okay. You just need to find a way through which you can release it with this respect that you don't need to hurt someone or like invade their privacy. If you can take care of these things, you can always express it, and these are the tools that I think so every human should have in order to live a good life. And for example, like when you said this thing, heavier, faster, see again, like don't confuse those two things. Like for example, like there is one thing called having beats, having a
Hmm.
rhythm. And
Hmm.
like for example, in Indian classical music, for example, a rag, like for example, I was talking about this pentatonic rag called rag bhopali. There are 5 notes. Now it's totally up to you what you can imagine. Like this is the main reason why it's so creative, because you can imagine everything. It's like your own exploration what you can make out of these 5 notes together. Like there are obviously different compositions out there, but again the idea is that it's totally free fall. Like do whatever you want to do. So there is this section where like you just free flow whatever you want to do. This thing is called alap, where you're just free flowing. Like it's like these constellations in the sky, where like whatever you can imagine, and it just allows you to be in that headspace where, okay, what can I imagine? It's a very creative process, and that's why I love it so much, because you're not playing those repetitive notes, but rather you're trying to discover new things. In each session you're finding something new, and that's why I said, like, even after practicing 18 months, I was like, I can spend another 18 years doing the same thing, because it's never ending. And that's why they say this thing that a rag, one lifetime is not enough for one rag. And imagine there are 5,000 plus rags in my culture. It's like multiple lifetimes are not enough. Like, and it just makes you feel so humble that, damn, calm down. The knowledge is so vast that,
You're never
like,
going to learn it all. And so it's just
yes,
about being in the moment and experiencing what you are
absolutely,
engaged with.
absolutely.
Because you can't learn it all. Yeah.
That's why you become so humble. That who am I? Like one rag, if I do justice, that in itself is a huge credit. Like, and this can only happen with the blessings of God's, your teachers, your parents, and then some. That it's a huge thing. So, and naturally, as I say, like, just imagine these thoughts bring smile, but when you feel it, it just makes you feel like part of this, like what they generally say, like part of this ocean. That I'm just a tiny drop in this ocean.
And that
Awesome.
is something that easily people could feel overwhelmed with. And I like the thought of being humbled by it as opposed to overwhelmed. And I think
Yes.
that that is something that a lot of times, we in societies that we generally will do first is get wrapped up in the vastness of it and just be overwhelmed and then kind of shut down instead
it,
of
it
actually
comes slowly,
approaching it as
slowly,
being humbled.
You're actually right, but the thing is that these things come slowly with time. Like it take years, sometimes decades to develop these thoughts. Because one thing is like being romantic about it, like yes, I will find everything. But when you keep repeating everything day in, day night, day night for 2 years, 3 years, that's when, like, you understand that, hey, there are certain phrases which are very popular in this rag. It generally resonates the vibe that you want to create. Like for example, you're playing rag bhairav, there's this haunting element, so there are certain notes which evoke such feelings. So you understand that, okay, this rag, if I play these notes, generally it helps you create that vibe. So that's why it takes some time, and but then again some, it's very much like your own exploration. What can you find? So often it is said that recordings of Indian classical music, again, like it was never propagated because every time you play something new.
Something
So
different.
yes,
Yeah.
every time a play, Indian classical music is played. Every time a maestro is playing, uh, this form is not propagated. Like even if when you have a composition, it's like you cannot keep playing the same notes again and again. You have to improvise all the time. So it's a new version all the time, and that's the beauty of it. Like, and it's a real life music. Like for example, the way we are talking, anything can happen. So and that's why, like, there are certain performances which are like magical in nature. You just feel that, damn, what artist did was just magical.
Mm.
And so, again, like that's the main reason why I don't think so it's overwhelming or something like that. It slowly comes. It's like when you see the ocean directly once, it will definitely overwhelm you, but generally you see streams first, then you find a small river, then a canal, then probably in your lifetime, if you're able to find a river, let alone like the ocean, because that's the vastness. Hopefully someday you are able to say that, hey, I've seen the ocean of knowledge
So
or whatever.
many vibes is and I'm bringing this up just because I'm also very curious. Asks, what does the R word mean? Does that mean song? And then spelled it darp or RAAG or
Yes,
ROG.
rock, rock,
Um, is it
rock.
RAAG? Is that what it
Yes,
is?
rock, rock.
And so, how would you equate that? Is there a direct sort of translation to a musical
No,
term?
it's not. So basically, like for example, you have uh, there's no particular translation. Like I said, a rag is itself is like a human. It has its own behaviors, movements, certain vibe to it, and like for example, some rag are very much playful in nature. And for example, Bhopali I was playing, it's very much playful in nature, as you can see, like, yeah, very light music, you just enjoy it. There are certain rags which are like bit intense in nature. Like for example, their nature is seriousness. For example, Bhairav I was talking about. Bhairav rag is about that intensity that you feel. And then there are some rags which are like, very much like seasonal based. Like if it's raining, you play them, you naturally feel that earthly vibe, clouds are raining. So, and this is the good aspect. Like in this
Could
5,000 plus repertoire, like they have pretty much covered all the different emotions and like sides of human.
So, would you equate Rag less with a song and more with a muse? So, like a touch point or an inspiration.
Song is
A
a composition. Song is a
it's it.
composition. We
Okay.
have compositions. Like in a rag, there are compositions,
Okay.
but like a composition is just a fixed set. I'm talking about this
Okay.
entire universe. So
Okay.
you see, like it's like a portal. Like each rag in itself is like a huge characteristic which you can keep like finding, and each day with time you see that. Like for example, like there's this concept called chilla in Indian classical music. Often, like what an artist does is like he confines him, like he just closes himself into a room, and the idea is that after basic activities like sleep, eating, getting freshen up, all they spend like those 15, 16 hours just with their instrument. And it's very interesting that artists who have done chilla in their lives, you do this for 40 days, that's one chilla. So they say that they start seeing colors. Like you start seeing, and this is a scientific phenomena, I think so, it's called synesthesia, where you can see
Oh yeah, yeah,
colors.
yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
it's a scientific.
Or like taste shapes or
Yes.
yeah.
So you need to understand like what science is discovering now. This form of music, if you the more you deep dive, you start seeing things, like if I say may, and those things for people who are not that much aware, it may sound like something very much metaphysical, like, hey, this guy is like, but the thing is that these are scientific phenomenons that I'm talking about, that you can start seeing colors, you can start seeing rags, like rag appears in your dream. Like oftentimes it happens that when you're playing a rag for 12, 13 months continuously, you're eating, breathing, living like continuously in that rag, and oftentimes I used to dream about them, and
Okay.
it's a very like larger than life experience, because they just comes in like different shapes and sizes, and they just leave you inspiring that damn.
I really want you to like show us some of the different rag compositions, but I
So
feel like that's almost like diminishing like the vastness of what you just
yes,
described.
yes,
But with that in mind, would you kind of like mind, even though, even though I
So
said it seems
I
like
would,
it's diminishing it, I'm going to ask you to diminish it.
I was going to say real quick because I did a quick, you know, Wikipedia search, but basically to kind of dumb it down, it's a musical framework within the musician improvises. So even though there isn't anything specific in Western
there are rules. Yes.
culture that really translates, but it's sort of in the same frame of mind of a jazz artist or even like a jam
Blues
band like
jam.
the Grateful Dead or something like that, to where like they have this framework and then they just kind of, you know.
And again, it's not random. Like dare I say, like, the very term classical, it means, like, literally it means that a form of music that has been studied, and in which in written forms. So like, this is and since I say that this form of music is, like, for example, 10,000 years old at least. So, like, huge text, like I'm talking about, just not one two compositions are there, like thousands of compositions in just one rock, you realize. So it's like
Okay.
never ending work. If you start looking into it, you will realize that after some time you just understand that, hey, if I do this, probably a new composition is there. So it's a very interesting experience. But so let me play something. It's a rock very close to me. Uh,
Okay.
Unfortunately, like, I was so much inspired by this rag, because my guruji said that, hey, it was a rag of lovers, it's called rag Yaman. And yes, good fond memories, because love is a very special aspect of everyone's life. So I hope I
Yeah.
do justice to this is
I'm
in E scale. So yeah,
I'm
rag
sure
Yaman.
you will.
Just hold on.
that was phenomenal.
Yes, it
Was
was
it
so
just my
good.
imagination, or is there a tenet to that that particular rag where it was? And I know that you have the tones in the background, but I swear sometimes you were playing like almost two notes at once, and I was trying to figure out how that was possible. But like, is that something that is kind of a part of that, or am I just making shit up?
No, no, no. You're actually right. Like, I'm just glad that you can notice these things because uh, a lot of work is there. Like, for example, often you want, like, for example, in this case, I wanted to play a composition and so many other things, but as is the case, like when it's with real instrument, you really need to get the notes right, like the volume should be right, and it's just not like this.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
takes
yeah,
time. It takes, like, for example, that's why, like, as I said, like, each time you play something new. So
right.
often times, like a rag, it's called that you're doing a recital of a rag rather than, it's
Right,
every
but you were playing like somehow that particular rag has because you talked about the lovers and love and like a duality kind of is what I picture the masculine and the feminine,
absolutely.
but like
Yes.
you fully were like I swear I heard like two notes at once and I can see why that would be such a literally a lifetime of practice because you can incorporate that if I wasn't just
Yes.
making stuff up with my ears.
No, no, you're actually right. So basically, this thing is called gamak. So this is a technique in which you're trying to play two notes, but you have to make it sound just one. Like, for example, this. So the vocal, a person will do this. You are coming from up, but like so again, it's a very interesting way. Obviously, it just creates a better dynamic. So
Yeah,
and
and when you did it then, I mean, it was clearly like one note and then the other note. But I swear to you,
yes, yes.
sometimes you would like overlapped them somehow, and I'm trying to figure out what that was.
So
Other
when
than
you make
it could have just been magic. I
when you
mean,
play faster, so I was just giving you this demonstration where like I wanted to show you how what exactly am I doing. But when you do it faster, it gives this effect like multiple notes are being played at once.
okay, okay,
Yes.
okay, okay. That's awesome. Oh, I loved it. I thought that was
Yeah.
great. It was very loving, and like I said, I really I could hear the duality there, and that was amazing. That was so nice. Thank you.
Absolutely, and I highly encourage this thing to everyone. Like, get in touch with the art again because this is one of the best things you can do. The main idea here is that yes, I get practical side of life where you need to make money, you need to have a job, and so on and so forth. This is obviously there, but at the same time, you have gotten this opportunity of being a human, and I think so. The idea is to just like just be love, like it's not something you can plan, that you just have to like
You just have
have
to.
this daily routine where you feel that yes, it's just I'm just being loved, nothing else, nothing more. So for me, like music is one of the ways to get there, but the idea always remains the same, that hey, the life should feel like yes, this is it. In future I will see what things are gonna come my way, what things am I gonna achieve, what things will be taken away from me. But at the same time, in this moment, everybody deserves to feel complete, deserves to feel that yes, life is just love, and this is what art or the pursuit of art always is, that you feel
Mm,
this love that is present everywhere. And it's almost crazy that people often, like especially in work, people negate these things, but if you remember like that feeling of love where even somebody slaps you when you were in love, and like in teenage years, even when somebody slaps you, you feel like, oh, I'm so happy, not even a slap can phase me, because and that's the power, like it just gives you this never ending joy for life, like you just feel it. And this is what I'm trying to say, but even much more on a grand scale. Like people talk about manifestations and things like that, but
yeah.
those things are like much more like beggars. The idea is that once you're there, if you think of it, since I'm love, if I think of something, it will naturally happen because it's the truth for life. It's
I love how you said that. Some people who talk about manifestation is more like being a beggar.
yes, like
There's
Yes.
there was a there's a lot of parallels with manifestation and like that sort of spiritual element as there is even with like Bible verses. Pray to God, pray. God will, all these things. But I always like to remind people that there is a verse in the Bible that says, "After all that you can do." And so yeah, it is just about developing who you are from love, and then it's not manifesting this or praying for that. It's just
it's
being
confusion.
there to receive it.
It's confusion. It's confusion.
Yeah.
I think so. These things are, I'm not trying to say, again, dare I say, the idea is not to be dismissive, but rather
Yeah.
I say these are very much like confusing things, because a lot of time, like I said, like people who
It's
have,
expanding those
yes,
concepts
like
out even
naturally,
further than what they are, their narrowness. Yeah.
once you are, like, for example, it literally happens when two people make love, a kid is born. It's a very
Yeah.
creative process. Like a human is going to be born, dare I say, in its the
Yeah.
most glorious form. But in general, uh, if since it's a very creative thing, if you're feeling this love in day-to-day life, if you think of a thought, there is a huge chance it would become true, because your core being is asking for that. So even if you're a spiritual person, I think so it's a very natural and intuitive thing, rather than being a beggar, and like, hey, give it to me, give it to me. It should be more like, okay, I choose to be loved, and if I need this thing, if it's calling from my heart, it will naturally happen to me. And
Right.
again, Kerry, since I'm talking to you, that's why I mentioned, like, I have been very particular about these things, and I have literally designed this perfect life. I did not know like people can pay for community. Like, just imagine, like, it was when that to 2 years ago, and I am that person. The thing is, I never believed in this thing that I wanted to do good karma. I thought so, hey, how, why, what, and things just fell on. Like, a founder came on board and he was like, okay, I will support you or whatever you want to make. I'm like, yay. But again, the core thing is that, see, these are living examples. Like, I'm saying that, hey, these are the truths that I discovered that actually works, and these are not like, I'm trying to build things up in the sky. It's very much like
Yeah.
practical examples. If you stay in
Yeah.
these zones, it's a very natural way where you can just, you don't even need to manifest, like life gives you, like, like,
Yeah.
Right.
Like how we met and how Chad and I met. I mean, really, there's no way I would have ran into you guys in a month.
last
But
month,
it's yeah.
last month I was traveling to east of India. So in east of India, like, the language is different, people are different, culture is different, very different culture. And like, for example, like in the part of India that I live, it's a patriarchal society. Like,
Uh-huh.
men are playing the dominant roles. Women are, like, naturally in the background. But in Bengal, where I went, it's a matriarchal society. Like, when two-person gets married, the man moves to the woman's house, and not the vice versa. So, and again, like, these things generally people don't talk about, at least the common mainstream media. But we have in a
No.
society where, like, matriarchal
According to
society.
mainstream media, there are no matriarchal societies, and we
Yes.
have to take that shit back. And so, like, that's why I was like, oh, I didn't realize there was. I mean, we're told it's just the pendulum swings, but
Yeah,
that's
that's
so.
why. That's why, like, I understand, because I'm into marketing. I see that what they are doing, like, they just want to run a propaganda. But the
Mm-hmm.
reality is, like, on Earth, there are all kinds of society that exists, and
Which makes
you know,
sense.
and you won't believe, like, I was in a foreign lands, I did not speak the common tongue, and I felt like foreigner in my own country. I'm like, damn, yeah, I don't know anyone there. And the crazy thing is that I trusted love. Like, for example, when you're traveling in this unknown lands, people always warn you about, and I'm like, no, I'm gonna trust it. And it happened that, literally people were taking me to their homes and feeding me, and it's a huge gesture. Like, you're in a foreign land, but somebody is making you feel like home. It's a huge
Yeah.
deal. And I think so it all stems from this root that, hey, I know this thing core being that I'm here to spread love, and nothing bad can happen, and you have to trust, obviously, but at the same time, that thing just comes back in 7 8 times more.
Yeah.
So it's been that's why I say, it should be a critical component of everyone's life. In at least 24 hours, at least once a day, you sit down with yourself and you just allow yourself to be, rather than shaped and formed by somebody else's experiences.
Or
Just
even
your
trying to shape and form your own.
yes,
Because I mean, like, because that's like level 2. Like, you can get away from other people, but then I found myself at certain times sitting down and trying to shape my own in the presence of just myself, and
yes,
that was something that I still catch myself doing. Like, just be, just exist. Many
you,
Vibes has another great question that I think, and you want to throw that up there, Chatty?
Yeah.
Cool. So it says, what instruments do you play, and which have you played, and how do you choose what you play now?
wow, that's actually a good question. So again, like as you can understand, like for me, things lines are very vague, but it all started on 16th December 2018. It was an eclipse that day here in India. It was yes, we had a solar eclipse, and on 26th of March we had a lunar eclipse. So on 16th of December 2018, there was a lunar eclipse, and I was tripping with a couple of my friends from Israel. You
Oh
know,
yeah.
yes, like we all were tripping in the mountains and very good times. And those two happens to be a musician, and having a good time. Like we all were like a close knit family. And then it happened that during the trip, I had this like weird, like something like I just felt the gods are speaking to me that you should play Basuri. And I'm like, okay, that sounds very interesting. And so I was like, hey, if this calling is true, this instrument will come on its own. I won't buy it per se. On 17th January next month was my birthday. I was like, before my birthday, if this instrument comes, I will at least give it an honest go rather than just, And fortunately enough, on 16th of January, 11:30 in the night, I received a gift of Bansuri. So and again, like, and since lunar periods, like especially these eclipses, it's been talked across all the cultures that these are very special periods where the power of manifestation, dare I say, is very strong. If your calling is something truly honest, these things happen. And crazy enough, like I have like 9 set of bansuris with me, and on each subsequent eclipse from there on, like each eclipse used to bring a new bansuri for me.
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
So what you're saying is you play the Basri and it chose you.
Right.
Dare I say yes? This is the
Right
main
on.
reason why, like when I voice it out like that, it sounds crazy, but hey, it's happening, and that's why I say, like, uh, if human mind can imagine it, those things are probably true, because this
Yeah.
universe is too big and it's too mysterious, and our current form of science, it's just 304 years old, 100 years old, and we have to be like accepting of this fact that hey, we don't know anything, we just know a little bit of things. And there are, like, for example, we have only discovered 97.3% of ocean. 97% of ocean is like
Yeah.
unknown. What's
Yeah.
inside earth, we just don't know. So
Right.
you have to be accepting, like there have been tales that hey, there are some giants living inside which have swallowed ships. We have heard all these
Mhm.
stories, and oftentimes just because we haven't seen it, or like the mainstream media is not showing us, we have concluded that hey, we know the world. No, like
Yeah.
it's far more mysterious than what we know. And
Mhm.
that's why I say, if you allow yourself to flow, you just don't know, like you may end up finding your mission in life.
Yeah. Speaking of deep oceans, we did find something on the internet that was discovered in a deep ocean, and I think you'll like this, Vivek, because I'm pretty sure I figured out why AI creates messed up hands when it does pictures. You know how like the
Yes,
hands are always really screwed up. Do you have
yes.
that picture handy, Chad?
I do. Hang on.
I
I'll
figured you
pull it
would.
up. I'll pull
I've
it up.
I've solved the mystery of the AI's messed up hands from our deep oceans that we're still currently discovering. That is the Barbie pig. Does that not look like every
Yes.
messed up AI hand we've ever seen? I'm sorry. When you said that, I immediately thought Barbie pig.
Yes.
I can't unsee it. I'm like, oh, look, it's AI hands. Or feet. Who knows? But
Yeah.
somewhere the
No,
AI got it.
It's definitely so.
Weird looking.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to like break the spell, but like all I could think was Barbie pig.
Yeah.
The undiscovered ocean Barbie pig. I don't know. But
Yeah,
isn't
and-
that an interesting little critter?
And as far as in the center of the earth, that's where King Kong lives. Not quite sure where Bigfoot lives, but that's where King Kong lives.
Well, yeah. Jeez Louise. The cutest jellyfish ever. I don't know about that. It
Right.
gives me, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's not that cute to me. But
I mean, it's like weird cute, kind of like an English bulldog or something. It's like cute but weird.
the Barbie pig does have its own emoji in the chat as well. So,
Did you make a Barbie pig emoji? Oh my
yes.
god!
What I was
you.
gonna say.
Thank you for that.
What I was gonna say about what all you were talking about, though, as far as the, being the love and accepting and everything coming back around. That reminds me of what I've always thought and always said my whole life is that people are always like, oh, so and so, they're so lucky, or that person, they're so lucky. I wish I was lucky like them. They're lucky because they put in the work, they put in the effort, the heart, and they put themselves in the situation to have that luck happen. They're not just lucky, and it's kind of
Yeah.
along that same thing. It's the same kind of thinking of basically being that positive force and putting in the positivity and just being love, and then it being rewarded, as opposed to please give me this, please give me this. Oh, I wish I was lucky, or what have you. So, yeah.
Well, and it is kind of like loose concept behind green eggs and ham. Is just like how do we unlock or dissipate a sort of jealousy and realize that everybody's kind of working for it, even if they're just suddenly becoming visible to us.
Yes.
And there's a real undertone of that in like music creation and music output, because not everybody just does it as a student. People who are striving to create an income or a support structure with their music, they see people who have made it, and it's really easy to be like, oh, they just got lucky. But
Right.
like Chad was saying, there's
Right.
so much that happens beneath that. We've got some new people in the chat too. We got Scott, an old
Yeah.
fart gaming. We've had
Robbie Stingle's been here for a bit.
Robbie
hello
Stingle
to Rob.
and yep, Phil's been here. I saw Pookie Ann dropped in. Valerie Bot's
Yep.
still here.
I love Weed Live. Good to see
Yep.
you.
So we'll just take a minute.
Yeah.
Muggs Money showed up. Hi
Yep,
there.
yep.
Say hi to some people, and thanks for popping in our kind of off time. But it is Sunday in India, as we said earlier, so it counts. I'm taking it. It counts. I got out of work early. They were like getting slammed. And I was like, well, gotta go.
Awesome.
That was great.
That's fantastic.
Oh,
Were you going to play something else? Because I definitely love everything that you've played today.
yeah. So much. Yeah.
What can we play? Let's play something.
Why don't you play one of those eerie rogs for us? Give us that.
Yes,
Is
I'm
that-
not
is that-
learning. Probably sometime next time.
Next time. Okay. He's still working on that one.
Yes, because these are technically difficult rogs, because
Yeah. I don't doubt
even
it. I don't
Metros
doubt it.
won't dare play it because it's challenging in itself. But can we
How
play?
about
because
Jethro
it's not-
Tull? Do you know any Jethro Tull?
No.
I'm sorry. I was bound. I was going to say it eventually. You know it.
Eventually, I'll get there. That's the idea, someday.
Little oklung.
Let me play something in major, E major. It's basically a feminine rag. It's called
Okay.
Rag Durga. It's Rag Durga, and probably for the guys in the US, I'm pretty much sure they like it because it's a
Robbie
lightweight.
Stingle's requesting Freebird.
Really.
Oh, pole vault's here. Hi, pole vault.
Hello,
All right.
Vivek.
Let's see what you got for us. I'm gonna mute.
So I'll play a composition in Rag Durga. This one is. This one is set in 16 beat cycle. It's called Teen Tal. 160. Can you hear the beats?
That one was dancey.
That one was so good.
I
So
agree
good.
with many
Very,
vibes. That's
very,
a
very
twirling song.
it's Rag Durga. So Durga is basically like the most powerful form of energy out there. She's feminine in nature, and she said that she is like single, in nature, as in like she doesn't have a partner. Why?
Hmm.
Because she no male equivalent is there because she is so
Mm,
powerful. So,
Yeah. That,
this is how much like Indian culture, generally, like, I think so. I want to put it out there that generally this impression has been given, which I don't think so is what the mainstream India is all about. Like here in our
yeah.
culture, like it's all about like this huge respect for this entire feminine thing, and the more you deep dive into it, you just realize it. Like you just feel this music, right? Like it's so much motherly in nature, where you're just like dancing and enjoying. So yeah,
Well,
absolutely.
I mean, like, it's funny how far we've gotten away from this idea of single older woman being an okay thing, right? Somehow that's diminished in the human form, but there are several deities that, like Athena, exists as like unencumbered. And there's other, I can't think of any off the top of my head, but there's other deities in other cultures too that embrace
Absolutely.
this, like,
So, so travel and learn about different cultures because knowledge
yeah,
is power, and you will realize
it
you'll be
is.
amazed that the kind of person you are, you probably there is a tribe out there that totally understands, and
Well,
this is something
I'm with you guys.
absolutely,
You guys get me.
absolutely. So we embrace Kerry, and thank you very much for existing, Kerry.
Oh, well, I mean, thanks for accepting me. No, I love, well, you talk about serendipitous moments, and
Yeah.
there's definitely been a good handful since I've started kind of opening up and exploring and stopped trying so hard, you know, and just being
right.
and doing the best I can to be loved. And I think it's one of those things too where you can't. It's not one of those things where you experience it and then you're like, it's not a ladder. It's more like Russian dolls, right? And you just kind of like unlocking them, but you can always go back into the center doll again. You know, it's you experience these things and it's a taste, but it's always an unfolding, an ever unfolding experience to find where you're at and
Yes.
just kind of being aware of that. But it's never a place that you're always at, you know?
So
That's what makes it so
science,
delicious.
Kerry, what you're saying is like science says this thing like there's this frequency which is called resonance. So
Hmm.
this is actually something like where uh, when you are at a resonance, each element has a different form of resonance frequency, but
Yeah.
there is a frequency which is found in real nature in chemistry, physics, everywhere, where like you become more than the sum of parts. Like for example, there is this benzene ring. It's in chemistry, and probably like what happens is that when all these six elements come together, they are much more stronger than six bonds. So
Yeah.
this magical element that goes on, musicians express it in a different way. Religious people express this resonance frequency in some other way. You express it differently, but I think so. All these
Even
different
sports teams getting
yes,
into the same arena, it's still
artists,
it's a
artists call
human
this
thing to find
yeah.
this frequency.
And artists call this thing the zone. Like generally I
Hmm.
am in the zone. So I think so this is the entire idea, that you find this resonance frequency where you're, so that you always vibrate at a level where things are just expanding and expanding, because that zone is definitely not a shrinkage. That's not selfish. The more you give, the more you get in
Right.
return.
Well, and
So
there's like the personal in the zone, and then there's like the group in the zone,
yeah,
and I, it's flow state, and it's group flow state, or it's a personal flow state, but it is a flow state, and it's a cycle. People, want to achieve it and be there all the time, and the
yes,
truth of the matter is that's not the reality of how that
no, no.
that physical spiritual combination, that state works. It's
I
like
think so we can be
anything
there.
else.
I think so. This is the entire point of like keep keep working hard towards this zone, so that
Yeah.
whatever work you do leads to that. And it's obviously a struggle, not every time you'll be there, but that's the fun part, because if it's already there, then what's the fun? Like, when you are chasing something, you just get the thrill of it.
And
Right.
it's pushing through the frustration and knowing that if you give up during that frustration, then you start over again. But if you can somehow, I don't want to say push through it, because it shouldn't. Like, it is a
Yes.
struggle and it is a frustration, but it's about being in it and allowing it to take you like a wave, right?
you, you,
And
you
pick
need
you up and
both
carry
positive.
you.
Yes, you need both positive and negative days.
Yeah.
If everything is positive, positive. Like, for example, there is this quote that I read where you grow your maximum when you're going through your negative stage. Like, if
Well,
you always look back, you will always notice
Hmm.
the amount of learning that you did when that negativity came along. That was the most maximum you grew as a person in terms of work, so on and so forth. And oftentimes, like, so if you look at in the grand perspective, negative times are your real best friends. They teach you in a real way. They help you grow. And so that's why, like, rather than judging things as positive, negative, accept for what it is, but always remember that you have a duty to fulfill the things that you're pursuing. That be honest
right.
about yourself. Don't be like, and don't be like, carry this regret. I should have worked hard. Like, at least from a hard work
Yeah.
perspective, be there that I gave my maximum. If this was what was written, so be it. No regrets.
Right. Right. And positive and negative, thinking of it as opposed to good and bad, but more like polarity of energy. So it's
Yes.
like a magnet as opposed to good and bad. You need a
Right.
magnet to be able to suspend kind of in the middle.
Yes.
And sometimes you're going to get pulled to one side or the other side, but that does not make it good or bad. It's just going more towards this or that in the quest for finding the kind of harmonious space in the center. I don't like to say
Yes,
balance
that's
because I don't
how.
think we're ever
That's how.
truly like balanced. It's about noticing when we're bringing some things to the forefront or not.
Absolutely, I totally agree. And it's about finding this balance that everything is taken care of. You're neither a little bit ahead nor a little bit far, just exactly here. So, and that's why, like, art, that's why it helps you find that perfect balance of state where you're living in harmony. And I think so, all beings on earth is trying, like all the elements. In fact, science defines it as this only, that all the elements in this entire universe are trying to find that equilibrium, and that's this constant struggle to find this balance is what life is. And so that's why, like, the struggle will be there. Just find worth suffering for, just find that zone which is completely worth it. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
These dogs are fully attacking me.
yeah.
Two, two,
We might
two
have to
things.
start kind of squishing. Yeah.
Two things I wanted to say off of what you were just saying is that one, my dad, one of the things he always taught me that he would always say when I started working, he would always say, just do the best you can and let the rest of it go. Now, meaning never do more than you can actually do, and don't worry about the things that you can't do. And that was something that he really instilled in me that I is part of like my philosophy of life. And I think that's a lot with what you were saying as far as basically being and not worrying about going
You're out of control,
beyond what you
puppy.
can actually do. The other thing was about the when you in that negative time how much you grow. That's one of the things that I have noticed because with my anxiety, I push myself outside of my comfort zones constantly. And if I wasn't pushing myself, I would not be growing as I am. So that kind of also ties into what you were saying about the amount of growth that you go through whenever there is something negative. I
Yeah.
think that ties into that.
So guys, like, Robbie's dad birthday would have been today. So let's play something for Robbie's dad. Like, it's a
Yeah.
dedication, and probably like, If there are any mistakes, Robbie, please forgive us. But I think so. We are just celebrating your dad's birthday, so a birthday tune for him.
Okay.
There you go.
Awesome.
A birthday wish.
Yes, Robbie. Once again.
Jazz hands. Oh, that was sweet.
Awesome.
Thank you.
That was.
Thank you very much, guys. Like for just tuning in and like sharing your thoughts. It's been like super amazing to just be this much open about something that I pursue. And all I just want to say, like for example, in summers I'm going to Europe, and there I'm attending a festival where like musicians from around 100 plus countries will just come together, live together for 10 days, and just learn from each other. Probably I'll be teaching someone Indian classical and trying to learn the music that they do in their culture. And the best thing about it is, just imagine, like despite so much of differences, like music unites us all. And this is what I want to say, like focus on things that unite us rather than like this useless division on based on skin color, based on our voice and different things. We all are one, and this oneness is what the science is aspiring for, religion is aspiring for, everything, like in
It
our
really
culture.
is. Yeah. It
In our
really is.
culture, like there is this quote by Ramakrishna Paramhans. He says that all the rivers lead to ocean. So no matter what you do, the ocean is the final goal. So like
Yeah.
let's focus on that higher thing, and I'm pretty much sure life is a wonderful happening, and I'm just glad that everything exists.
Yeah. I'm so glad you joined us today. It was so
Yes.
It was
This has
so
been
worth
great.
it. It was
Yeah.
so worth it. Did you happen? I mean, we're probably starting to wrap it up a little bit, but I don't know if I can go another week without like a pole vault moment. Did you happen to capture? Because I would be really sad if we didn't have a pole vault moment of the week.
No,
What-
I do not have one for this week because I did.
Pole vault, you're slacking.
No,
How are we
trust
supposed
me.
to get content for
Tr-
our show?
Trust me, he did plenty. I just didn't have the time to go in and pick one. So
Okay, he did plenty. Well, we'll just have to go check out Pole Vault's channel, and then don't forget about Monday hangovers. The hangover.
what we can go out with though is Dirk, who was here earlier, Dirk Remington. He did do a croc rock song about the Pringles and the Crocs. So we can definitely go out with that song.
I mean, but I do from the bottom of my heart and with such sincerity, Vivek. Thank you for joining me and Chad today. I learned so much, and Pole Vault's claiming he did nothing. So I mean, I don't believe that.
Yeah.
But I do. I just appreciate you taking the time and playing for us. It was, well, we'll just put it down for the books. It was literally the longest Carrie went without talking. Because you, well, so there's lots of Carrie silence in this show, which is unusual. Is it
Hey.
not?
That goes back to the silence. See, so you were learning. It was all part of the show.
She can
And
be taught.
But no, I very much appreciate you coming. This has been a lot of fun, and yeah, definitely really cool conversations, and I very much enjoyed listening to your music. Very, very calming, beautiful. So yeah, we're definitely going to have you come back at some point.
know if you can
Absolutely.
see her.
Like,
But this
Yes.
is my grand puppy. She
Yeah.
and then I'm getting accosted. It must be time to go for a walk because now I've got
Yeah.
both of them. I've got one behind me and one in front of me. And It's time. I think it's time. They've been unplugging my shit. It's been like a whole kerfuffle, but thank you
It's been
for being
absolute
here.
pleasure, guys. Thank you very much for tuning in. Thank you, Carrie. Thank you, Chad.
Yes. Thank
And
you so
feel-
much.
And hang out for just a minute, Vivek, to hear this Croc Rock. It's in honors of the new Crocs, the Pringles
Yes.
Croc collaboration, which we thought was hilarious because it came out the same week as Crocs is getting a class action suit.
So,
For
so this
shrinkage.
is is the Croc Pringles, which who is going to wear this? I don't know.
They're sold out. I went and I looked because I was looking for reviews. They are sold out, folks. There are people buying these $120 boots because snacking next to your toes is delicious. What is wrong? I can't.
So here is Croc Rock from
Thank you, Dirk.
Dirk Bennington. And here we go.
Shoes and Pringles, it's a match made so sweet. But when the weather turns bad, man, it's a sad time like Crocs shrinking shit. Can't handle the fight. Crocs, not gonna make it pop. I'm styling with my Pringles. Ain't never gonna stop. When the rain falls down, my shoes take a hit. Shrinking like my dreams, man. This weather's legit. This weather's legit.